Rhiannon stopping in to say hi, and I kind of wanted to chat for a minute about something that God has been teaching me here lately, and I thought that it might resonate with some, so I wanted to share about it. God has really been teaching me about the difference in ability and obedience, because a lot of times we set out to do what we feel like He's calling us to do, and we do it based on our abilities versus our obedience. And a lot of times what we need to realize is that God is going to call us to do stuff that we might not necessarily feel like we are equipped to do, but He wants us to step out in obedience versus relying on our ability to do it. Many years ago, God called our family to the bottom of the Grand Canyon to live there and work with the people there, and it was a wonderful experience. But my dad joked, and still jokes to this day, he says, I know that God called a cowboy somewhere to go, but they didn't answer the call, and because the cowboy would have had the ability. And my dad says, I didn't have the ability, but I trusted God, and I was crazy enough to listen and obey, and we were in the bottom of the Grand Canyon. So that always inspired me in kind of in a funny way, because it's like sometimes He is going to stick you out on a limb, and He is not necessarily going to give you wings to fly, but you're going to have to trust that He's going to get you off that limb somehow, some way. And immediately the first person that comes to mind from the Bible is Moses, because Moses did not think that he had the ability to go and speak to Pharaoh. He's like, no, God, I don't talk to people. I stutter. I'm not that person. I really think you should get somebody else for the job. And God's like, no, you're it. You're going. And he's like, okay. And he's like, okay, you can have Aaron, and Aaron can speak, and that's fine. But you're still going to be the one that I'm going to use to set my people free. And so sometimes I think it's important to realize, and that's what I'm having to realize, and doing videos and releasing blog posts and everything that I'm doing, and working with kids and being a mom even, and being a wife, that sometimes I've got to trust God more than I trust my ability. Sometimes along the way in process, we will begin to be equipped for what we're called to do. It's not necessarily that we get the equipping and then the calling. A lot of times, probably a majority of the time, we get the calling and then the equipping. And I'm not suggesting that you are supposed to go out and pastor a church without any equipping. I'm saying, you can start somewhere. You can talk to your leaders at your church. You can talk to leaders that that you're friends with, and volunteer at your church. Get involved. Volunteer wherever you feel God is calling you. There are always baby steps that you can take. For me, it was when I started writing in school. I turned in good papers, and professors encouraged me, and they liked the way that I wrote, which amazed me. And then when I graduated, I was like, okay, let's do the blog. And then I got to write for a local magazine in Cleveland, and it was just baby steps. But I believe that God will take it somewhere, because it wasn't based upon my ability necessarily. Yes, people liked the way that I wrote, and they liked the message that was coming out, but it wasn't about my ability. It was about my willingness to say, okay, God, I don't necessarily trust that I can do this, but if you're telling me to do this, then I'm going to obey, because obedience is better than having the ability to do it. Because I can have the ability, but if I don't have the heart of obedience and of humility, then I don't really think that ability is going to carry me through. So I just want to encourage you that whatever God has placed inside of your heart that you may feel is too big or too radical, and you don't feel equipped for it, ask God to show you the baby steps. What are the first steps that I can take, God, in order to be obedient to what you are drawing me to, what this passion is inside of me? Because I guarantee that somehow, some way, He's going to reveal to you steps that you can take to be obedient. And you may not necessarily feel equipped, but that's okay, because the equipping will come. Just trust God and take that step, and believe that when we are obedient, He always meets us. I've never talked to someone that said, I regret being obedient. It's usually always, I regret that I wasn't obedient sooner. So be encouraged in that. I know that I'm still learning that. I'm trusting God and saying, okay, God, it's about being obedient. It's not about my ability, and we just grow and learn together. And I pray that you have an awesome and blessed Tuesday, and let us grow together, and remember that you are loved and chosen and unique.